So usually, when a high-profile criminal case finally heads to court, you kind of expect some clarity. Like you expect the state to just take all the puzzle pieces, dump them on the table, and let the public watch the full picture naturally reveal itself.
Right, yeah. I mean, the process is designed to be methodical, right? It's supposed to be comforting. We
Yeah,
basically want the chaos of a tragedy to be categorized, labeled, and just, put into an evidence locker so we can all make sense of it.
exactly. But when you really dig into the preliminary hearings for Tyler Robinson, and this is the 20-year-old accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University back on September 10th, 2025, well, that puzzle is, it's missing half its pieces.
Yeah, it really is.
And honestly, the table it was sitting on has literally been paved over.
Yeah.
So for today's deep dive, we are analyzing the source materials you sent us. Specifically, we're looking at transcripts from two commentators who are just like meticulously breaking down days 1 and 2 of this monumental preliminary.
Because to understand the controversy surrounding this case, you really have to understand exactly what evidence is being contested.
Yeah, well said. I mean, the prosecution promised the public mountains of evidence proving that Tyler Robinson acted entirely alone. But when you look at what was actually presented in that courtroom, the commentators are arguing that the state basically delivered a mountain of missing footage, dead batteries, altered crime scenes, and a mystery getaway driver.
Oh, the mystery driver, yeah. But to understand how the state can even present a case like this, we really have to look at the venue itself first. Like, the arena kind of dictates the rules of engagement here.
Right, because this wasn't a standard trial.
Exactly. This wasn't a full trial in front of a jury. This was a preliminary hearing in the state of Utah.
Which means the bar the prosecution has to clear is, like, incredibly low. I mean, they don't need to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt yet. They only need to establish probable cause, which is basically just showing the judge there's enough rudimentary evidence to justify moving forward to a full trial, right?
Right. And in Utah, that low bar is, well, it's lowered even further by something called Utah Rule 1102.
Oh, yeah, the hearsay rule.
Yeah, which allows for what they call reliable hearsay. So in a normal, standard criminal trial, if a witness saw the suspect running, that witness actually has to sit on the stand, give their testimony under oath, and, face cross-examination by the defense.
Right, which makes sense.
But Utah Rule 1102 completely bypasses that. A police officer can just sit on the stand and say, oh, an eyewitness told me they saw the suspect running.
So the actual person who supposedly saw it doesn't even have to be in the room.
They don't have to be there at all. And the defense cannot cross-examine the officer about what the witness actually saw because, well, the officer didn't see it.
That is, I mean, you can see why the commentators are looking at this structure and just expressing immense frustration. They're viewing this entire preliminary process as like a kangaroo court.
Yeah.
A rubber stamp exercise where the state can just spin a narrative without facing any real rigorous scrutiny.
Yeah, they are not happy about it.
So, okay, let's unpack this for a second. Think of a preliminary hearing like a movie trailer.
Okay, I like that.
It's not the blockbuster film, right? The state only has to splice together enough compelling clips to get a green light from the studio,
Yeah.
which in this case is the judge. But my question is, if you have a mountain of solid blockbuster proof, why would your trailer rely on hearsay and blurry video?
Right, you'd want the good stuff.
Exactly. You'd want to put your best, most irrefutable evidence front and center just to shut down all the public conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Well, and because the state chose not to present that overwhelming, irrefutable proof, the commentators basically turned their magnifying glasses onto the physical evidence the state did actually bring forward.
And they had a field day with it.
Oh, totally. They argue that what little physical evidence exists is just bafflingly flawed, and they start with the crime scene itself.
Well, the paving stones.
Yeah.
So for context, the assassination happened under this tented area on campus. And just days after the shooting, the actual ground under that tent was paved over with stones.
Literally paving stones laid directly over the dirt where the tragedy occurred. I mean, the outrage from the sources here stems from just basic forensic science. Paving over a fresh crime scene potentially destroys microscopic, but, vital evidence.
Yeah, we're talking gunpowder residue, explosive residue, footprints.
Or even bullet fragments just buried in the dirt. But honestly, the truly staggering moment in the transcript comes from the testimony of the lead investigator for the State Bureau of Investigation.
This part is wild.
It is. When he was asked on the stand about the crime scene being paved over, he testified that he didn't even know it had happened until he saw it on the local news.
Wait, he didn't know who authorized it?
He had no idea. The lead investigator on the highest-profile assassination case in decades is finding out about his own crime scene being fundamentally altered by watching television.
That is just, I mean, preserving a crime scene is the most fundamental rule of law enforcement. So to have it permanently, physically altered without the knowledge or permission of the person leading the investigation. The sources view that as a massive indicator that the investigation itself is, like, not in control of its own evidence.
Yeah, it completely undermines trust, which naturally brings into question the evidence they did manage to collect, primarily the ballistics.
Right, the magic bullet.
Yeah. So the prosecution alleges a .3006 rifle was used, striking Charlie Kirk's C2 vertebra and then just stopping inside his neck. And the commentators spend a massive amount of time in these transcripts just completely tearing this specific medical detail apart.
And they bring receipts, right? Like independent ballistics tests conducted by crowdsourced researchers.
Oh, yeah, lots of tests. Because a .306 is not some small tactical round. It is a massive, high-velocity cartridge that was originally designed for the military. Now it's widely used for taking down, like, really large game. Elk, moose, things like that.
A huge bullet.
Right. And the commentators point to these independent tests showing a standard .3006 round blowing completely through thick, bone-in pork roasts, cow femurs, cinder blocks, and get this, even steel plates.
Steel plates. Wow. Yeah, one specific test noted by a source showed the round going through a roast, punching through a wooden wall, piercing the front of the cinder block, and then completely shattering the back wall of that same block.
It just doesn't stop.
Right. So the prosecutions claim that this high-velocity, essentially armor-piercing round hit a human neck vertebra and just stopped, with no exit wound. The sources describe that as a physical impossibility, a 1 in a million fluke.
And their argument is basically that if the state's entire lone gunman narrative relies on an opening ballistic event that has a less than 1% chance of physically happening according to these independent tests, then the foundation of the case collapses before it even starts.
Okay, but let me push back for a second, just for the sake of critical thinking. Could the shooter have used a frangible round? You know, a bullet specifically designed to shatter into dust and fragments upon impact so it doesn't overpenetrate, or maybe just a defective homemade bullet. Like, how are the commentators weighing these crowdsourced internet experiments against the official medical examiner reports?
That's a fair question. And actually, one of the commentators does acknowledge the frangible round theory. They point out that, yes, frangible ammunition can indeed stop inside solid concrete without exiting.
Okay, so it is possible.
It is, but the counter-argument is that frangible .3006 rounds are exceedingly rare. They are highly specialized, very expensive, and extremely difficult for your average 20-year-old kid to just procure.
That makes sense.
And really, the core of the skepticism isn't just about physics. It's about transparency. The state hasn't provided those granular details. They didn't testify that a frangible round was used. They just presented this highly unusual ballistic event and expected the judge and the public to just accept it without questioning the mechanics.
Right, it's the lack of explanation that's the problem.
Yeah.
And the weirdness with the bullets doesn't actually stop at the victim.
Oh, not at all.
Because the lead investigator casually mentioned on the stand that an entirely unfired bullet was found on a completely different roof on the university campus.
An unfired, pristine rifle round just sitting on a roof near the perimeter.
Like it was just dropped there.
Yeah. And when the defense pressed the investigator on this anomaly, he just explained it away by saying a police officer who was securing the perimeter had simply, cycled his rifle to clear the chamber and just left the bullet there.
Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know, to cycle a rifle means pulling back the charging handle to extract a live round from the chamber and eject it, usually to make the weapon safe. But one of the commentators cites an ex-Green Beret who actually trains police SWAT teams, and this military expert calls that explanation completely absurd.
Absurd is putting it mildly.
Yeah, because officers carry chambered weapons in public for immediate defense. They do not randomly eject live rounds onto civilian rooftops, leave a bullet covered in their own fingerprints just lying around a high-profile assassination scene, and then just walk away.
Exactly. And because this physical evidence, like the paved ground, the physics-defying bullet, the random live round is also heavily contested, people naturally look to the digital evidence to clear things up.
Because we live in an era where every inch of a college campus is recorded. Every officer is wearing a body camera. So the digital trail should be the ultimate arbiter of truth.
It should be. Except, according to the sources, the digital trail is where the most convenient anomalies actually happen.
Oh boy, the body cam footage.
Yeah. Let's talk about Officer Bagley. He was the very first law enforcement official to find the alleged sniper nest on the roof of the Losi Center. He climbs up, and he finds a key piece of evidence, A red and black screwdriver, purportedly used by the shooter to assemble the rifle.
Right.
And the exact moment he reaches this critical location, his body camera just dies.
It just shuts off.
It shuts off exactly 1 hour and 44 minutes into his shift. And the commentators immediately flag this because standard Axon or Provision body cameras, the ones used by modern police departments, are explicitly designed with battery lives intended to last for 10 to 14 hours of continuous recording.
Wow.
So a camera dying less than 2 hours into a shift, at the precise second the most crucial piece of physical evidence is discovered. That strikes the sources as mathematically impossible to be a mere coincidence.
Yeah, that is a massive red flag. And even wilder, Bagley wasn't even alone on that roof. He testified that he was accompanied by an unidentified man in civilian clothes carrying a gun and a badge.
An unidentified armed man. And Bagley admitted under oath that he didn't verify who this man was or what agency he worked for.
Wait, really? He didn't ask for ID?
Nope. He allowed an unidentified armed individual in plain clothes to just wander around the primary crime scene of a national tragedy while his own camera was completely dead.
That is just... I mean, since the immediate aftermath on the roof is essentially a black hole of dead batteries and unidentified men, you'd really hope the actual footage of the suspect leading up to the event would be pristine, right?
You'd hope so.
The prosecution played a compilation video tracking the suspect across campus. But the sources just tear this compilation apart frame by frame.
Oh, the continuity errors are glaring. Like, early in the compilation, the suspect is seen arriving on campus wearing a maroon t-shirt, but in later clips, the suspect is suddenly wearing a black shirt and skinny jeans.
And is there footage of him changing?
Absolutely zero footage. The state provides no video of the suspect actually changing clothes. They just assert to the court that it is the exact same person.
And then there are the physical movements. The prosecution claims the suspect hid the disassembled rifle down his pant leg, which is why he walks with this noticeable limp in the security footage.
But the commentators point out that the limp switches legs.
What? It switches legs.
Yeah. In one clip, the suspect is dragging a stiff right leg. In the next clip, the left leg is stiff. I mean, a metal rifle barrel doesn't magically jump from one pant leg to the other while you're walking.
No, it definitely doesn't. Furthermore, when the suspect is finally seen getting onto the low-C center roof, the video quality is so heavily degraded that the investigator admitted on the stand he couldn't even identify the person's face. He couldn't see clothing markings, couldn't guess their height or their weight.
He could only testify that the grainy figure was carrying a long object, and he couldn't even definitively identify that object as a rifle.
And the timing of the footage is also heavily manipulated, right?
Yes. The video compilation reportedly has a massive 5-minute cut right as the suspect gets onto the roof. 5 minutes, just gone. And once the figure is finally shown in the prone shooting position, the footage shows them lying there for only 15 to 30 seconds before getting up and running away.
15 to 30 seconds.
Yeah. And the sources really highlight the mechanics of sniping here. To climb onto a roof, assemble a rifle with a screwdriver, get into a prone position, acquire your target through the scope, control your breathing, calculate the angle, and then pull off a flawless head and neck shot. That requires immense skill and time.
Definitely more than 30 seconds.
Right. Doing all of that in 15 to 30 seconds is an impossibly fast timeline for a trained military sniper, let alone an amateur 20-year-old kid.
So what's fascinating here is how the absence of digital evidence has literally become the primary evidence for the skeptics. In an era where everything is recorded, a conveniently dead battery, a missing 5 minutes of footage, or an unidentified man on a roof, it all feels like a loud confession of foul play to a skeptical public.
Exactly. And since the digital evidence of the shooter on the roof is just this pixelated, chopped-up mess, the commentators shift their focus to the aftermath. Like, if the identity of the person pulling the trigger is obscured, what about the escape?
Right, the getaway.
And this is where the sources uncover an anomaly that completely shatters the lone gunman narrative the state is pushing.
Okay, this centers on a piece of Ring camera footage from the night of the shooting. It shows the suspect's distinct gray Dodge Charger pulling up to a house. And the homeowner who provided this footage to the police is a woman named Cynthia Donatelli Noble.
And the sources emphasize her credibility here. She is a BYU PhD and an award-winning teacher. She's not some random internet sleuth making things up.
Right. And she told investigators that when that car pulled up to her house, the driver of the vehicle was bald. And there were 3 other people inside the car.
3 other people. And Tyler Robinson, the accused, has a full head of brown hair.
Right. So here's where it gets really interesting. If Robinson is on the run, facing a massive international manhunt, who is the bald man driving his distinct getaway car with a crew of 3 other people in the middle of the night.
It's a huge question.
But let me play devil's advocate for a second. Could the car just have been stolen? Like some local joyriders found an abandoned vehicle while he was on the run. Does this definitively point to a coordinated hit squad?
I mean, joyriders is a highly plausible alternative. And in a rigorous legal proceeding, you would expect the state to explore that possibility to eliminate doubt, right? You'd want to rule it out.
Of course.
Instead, the prosecution played the Ring camera footage of the car in court, but they completely omitted the homeowner's testimony about the ball driver and the 3 passengers.
They just left it out.
They didn't mention it at all. It only came out because the defense forced it onto the record during cross-examination. So for the commentators, this active omission by the prosecution goes way beyond just tunnel vision. They see it as the deliberate suppression of evidence that points to accomplices.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, when you have missing digital footage, dead body cameras, crime scenes paved over in the middle of the night, and getaway cars driven by coordinated teams of people that the state actively tries to ignore, you kind of leave the realm of a 20-year-old lone gunman.
You really do.
The sheer sophistication of these anomalies leads the commentators to build a logical bridge toward, state-level espionage. They introduce this grand theory to explain why this is happening and how an operation this massive could be orchestrated.
Yeah, and this is where it gets into spycraft. One of the sources introduces the intelligence concept of the unwitting asset.
The unwitting asset, okay.
Right, so in the world of espionage, an operation is often directed by a handler. The handler's job is to manipulate an asset into performing specific actions or taking specific positions without the asset ever realizing they are part of a coordinated operation.
So they don't even know they're a spy.
Yes,
essentially.
exactly. They are totally unwitting.
The handler uses, psychological tactics, right? They use flattery, they manipulate schedules, they feed the asset very specific pieces of gossip or managed information just to shape their worldview.
Yes. The asset thinks they're just navigating normal professional or personal relationships. They are completely unaware they are being steered from the shadows by an intelligence agency.
And the commentators take this concept and apply it directly to Charlie Kirk and the organization he founded, Turning Point USA.
They do. They suggest the organizational culture surrounding Kirk was actually steeped in these exact manipulation tactics, which suggests Kirk himself may have been an unwitting asset managed by handlers within his own inner circle.
And the evidence they use to support this leap comes from some highly public drama that erupted shortly after the shooting. It involves TPUSA's PR lead, a man named Andrew Colvett.
Yeah, he had a very public meltdown on X, formerly Twitter.
Right. And Colvett claimed that Charlie Kirk actually disliked the controversial podcaster Candace Owens. He said Kirk was secretly terrified of her, and that he was just managing her to keep her from turning her massive audience against the organization.
But the commentators juxtapose Colvett's claims with the actual digital footprint of Kirk's relationship with Owens.
Because they were friends.
Right. They point to text messages where Kirk repeatedly calls Owens a great friend and tells her he supports her 100%. And there are video clips of Kirk publicly defending her just weeks before his death.
So the source argues that Colvett's PR spin is a massive tell. Colvett is publicly admitting that the organization's strategy was to manage a prominent figure through deception and fake friendship.
Which is exactly what a handler does.
It's exactly. The commentators argue this reveals a classic handler mindset embedded in the organization's leadership. If the people surrounding Kirk were comfortable manipulating relationships and controlling the flow of information to handle someone like Owens, it feeds directly into the theory that Kirk himself was an unwitting asset, surrounded by intelligence handlers steering his actions.
I mean, it is a massive leap, but it reveals something really profound about human psychology in the modern era.
What do you mean?
Well, when people are faced with a traumatic, chaotic event, like a public assassination, and the institutions tasked with investigating that event provide hearsay, impossible ballistics, and missing footage, the public mind naturally seeks out grand, organized narratives.
They want it to make sense.
Right. We would rather believe in a highly competent, sinister intelligence operation than accept that the justice system is just deeply incompetent and messy.
That is so true. Whether Charlie Kirk was actually a handled intelligence asset or whether his PR team is just incredibly undisciplined and airing their messy damage control on social media, the public's reaction is the real story here. It shows a complete breakdown of trust. When the official story is full of holes, people will gather the discarded pieces and build their own structure to fill the void.
Absolutely. I mean, look at what we've covered. We started with the incredibly low legal bar of a Utah preliminary hearing, where an officer can testify to things they never even saw.
Then we looked at a crime scene paved over, before the lead investigator even knew it happened.
We examined the physics of a .3006 round, the mathematical impossibility of a body camera dying at the exact second of discovery,
A suspect whose limp mysteriously switches legs in the footage.
and a getaway car driven by a mysterious bald man that the state basically pretended didn't exist.
All of which fuels these grand, sprawling theories of spycraft and unwitting assets.
And this deep dive really raises a critical question about the modern age of information, something for you to mull over. Citizens today have the tools to analyze frame-by-frame pixels, track flight logs, and conduct their own independent ballistics tests in their backyards. The scrutiny is total.
Yeah, the internet is basically a massive detective agency.
Exactly. But the question is, does this intense crowdsourced scrutiny actually force the justice system to be more honest and transparent? Or does it guarantee that no matter what verdict is eventually handed down in a courtroom, millions of people will always believe the real truth was buried under the paving stones?